Well, welcome back, everybody. Have you ever wondered what truly differentiates the career journeys of the most successful digital and technology leaders? We usually meet them, they're at the top, right? They've earned the accolades, the awards, the titles. They're seen as the leaders amongst leaders. We look at their LinkedIn profiles and it looks like this smooth glide path to the top. But after years of peeling back the layers with dozens of these leaders, probably hundreds actually, I've learned that their journeys are anything but straight lines. To reach those defining moments, they've had to fight through tough bosses and tough breaks. They've taken on those hard assignments, the ones that nobody else wanted. They pushed through failure. They've said yes to yet one more lateral move to get that experience, get that exposure, build that new muscle to get to that next level. At the end of the day, the magic, what I think the real secret is, it's not how they answer the call, it's how they set themselves up to get the call in the first place. And there is no better person, and I promise you to unpack this with, than Jeanine Charlton, who's the Chief Technology and Digital Officer for Merchants Fleet. Before joining the company, this amazing fleet tech, this amazing innovative company in 2018, she was actually serving on their board. And it came time for them to put their first CIO in place, and Jeanine answered the call. And so I want to unpack her story of business excellence, technology excellence, and just what makes her story so special. I've got 6 really amazing mystery questioners that are going to help me do that as well. So Jeanine, as I welcome you to the podcast, so long overdue, so glad to be here with you. Would it be fair to say that even if we had the most powerful Gen AI tools back then, that even AI could not have predicted the Jeanine Charlton journey?
Absolutely not, Dan. I got to tell you, a career in technology for me, that was never even in my thought process, right? I, was going to school to try to help other people. I wanted to be a physical therapist, right? Truth be told, initially. Until that first summer when I did an internship in a hospital and it completely cured me of that. So that was certainly not in the cards. So I was trying to navigate kind of this world and figure out what I was going to do. So I continued working kind of part-time and going to school full-time, ended up working in a law firm. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll become a lawyer. That could be really interesting. And I was really enjoying that work. And then somebody said to me, hey, have you heard of this company called EDS? Like they were this kind of new big company that was coming to town. They had this really big contract with General Motors. And somebody said, you should just go check it out. So I did, right? Just my curiosity had kind of peaked. Like, I don't have a tech background. I'm not going to school for anything in tech, but I mean, like, why not? Like, there's a lot of buzz in Michigan about this because they were hiring so many people. So long story short, I walked to the recruiting office. They're like, come back tomorrow. Came back the next day, and I was hired on the spot. And the rest is kind of history, but never in my wildest dreams did I think that's where I would start my career.
Well, that's a great start here because your journey was not typical. And EDS, by the way, I've known so many people that work at EDS, and I've never heard anything but glowing reviews about that company, that culture, the people, the high bar they set for themselves and achieved. And so maybe just talk a little bit more about EDS and the culture of the company. How does it shape you as the executive you are today, you think?
I mean, first of all, what a great company, right? And kind of the foundation that I was able to get while working there is really kind of what helped me in my career. And so many of the principles are instilled kind of in my core DNA, right? I mean, they were really known for inventing the technology services arena, obviously. We were great at process integration. And at the core of it all, right, everything was centered around our clients and doing right by our clients, right? We built an operational machine that had discipline and rigor that was like nothing else I've seen in my career. It really kind of set the foundation for me. We built transformational mindsets, right? Our job was to come in and help these global clients drive large scale transformation efforts. So we had to get really, really good at how do you drive change? How do you consolidate systems? How do you streamline operations, right? And at the core of it all was how do we make sure that we develop our people such that we can do the best job for our clients? So there was rigorous training programs that were put into place, whether you were going down an engineering path, a financial path, an account management path, right? So they invested a lot in training their people, which was just incredible.
I've got a couple of mystery questions from those days. That goes back a ways, right? And
Sure does.
everyone loves this part of the program, and this is someone that you work closely with in different capacities, and you go back there. So let's just jump into this first one, and I want you to tell us who it is, and then you're gonna love who it is and love the question. So check it
Okay,
out.
let's do it, Dan.
All right.
The corporate information technology area is one of the most rewarding disciplines. Sometimes you meet a person who's great in technology, business operations, and employee leadership. There are very few of these individuals. It is an honor to be associated with someone who has these attributes. I call these executives special. Jeanine is very special.
Wow. I knew the question. I've got goosebumps. Who is that, Jeanine?
This is Ralph Szygenda.
Yes, it is.
Oh my gosh, my heart is touched. Really special. Ralph, thank you for the very kind words. It means a great deal to me, honestly. So Ralph was the CIO of General Motors, at the time. And, I was in a role where I was supporting one of the kind of business units within General Motors, and had an opportunity kind of to engage in a very large scale transformation activity in the global purchasing and supply chain area. And so there was lots of engagement with Ralph in terms of this engagement and how we had it set up. So had an opportunity, to work with him as we kind of work through this engagement. And so, one thing that I'll say about Ralph was that he was a very tough client. He set very high expectations. But I learned a great deal from Ralph, and will always be grateful for the opportunity that I had to be a part of that journey and to be a part of something that I think was very special. I think about my time at EDS, coupled with all the things that I learned from Ralph about how to be a great CIO, right? How to engage kind of in a relationship there. And, we say often that, those that were a part of kind of that time frame have gone on to do amazing things in their career. I mean, the list is quite long, actually, in terms of, the people that have gone on to do just amazing things.
Yeah, I asked Ralph that. I said, "Do you know the number?" He's like, "Yeah, there's just dozens that have gone on to big C-level roles like yourself and boards and just big things." So thank you, Ralph. Ralph was inducted into the CIO Hall of Fame in 2007.
Yeah.
Industry legend, one of the early, just upper echelon CIOs. So yeah, he got very excited about being part of this with you. So thank you.
I'm thrilled. I'm
Yeah.
thrilled. Thank you.
I've got someone else from that time frame, and someone who's seen you when things were really good and great, and seen you when things were tough, like when things were kind of a grind for different reasons. So that's when you get to know somebody really well, when you see them in the hot seat like that. And so check this one out, Jeanine, and you're gonna have some fun with this person and this question. So listen in.
Jeanine, my question for you is, how do you approach a situation where you have a tight time frame, the stakes are exceptionally high, a big team, and it's pretty obvious that some percentage, maybe 30 or 50%, could end up losing, but lots of families, lots of opportunities are on the line, tensions are high, lots of detail, lots of pressure, people have opinions, they're at their wits' end. How do you lead through a situation like that?
Evan Torgerson.
That is Mr. Kevin. Yeah. How do you know Kevin?
Yeah. So Kevin and I worked together at EDS, and Kevin and I had an opportunity to work together when GM was going through kind of their major recompete, right? So we had a master services agreement, EDS did, with General Motors, right? We were coming to the tail end of that. And, there was a decision made about putting the entire book of business out for bid. So it was the largest IT outsourcing engagement of its kind, right? So there were 39 concurrent RFPs that were released into the market. And I was fortunate enough to be on the deal team working with Kevin. Kevin was leading strategy, for this engagement for EDS. And I was responsible for leading the solutioning activity across these 39 RFPs that spread applications and infrastructure and network. It was quite an engagement. So, the level of responsibility for us that came with that, being part of the deal team, was quite high, right? He's not kidding when he says lots of families, lots of opportunities, right? Tensions are high for what this could mean to us as a company, given the amount of people that were employed, right, at the time. And so the stakes were high. This was an engagement that went on, over a couple of year period. And the really cool thing is we were really successful at the other end of it, winning close to, I think, 70% of the business that went out for bid. So quite remarkable. And what a tremendous learning opportunity that it was for me. And I'm very grateful to Kevin. He, was somebody who really pushed me to become a better version of myself. He's brilliant at strategy, and I learned so much from him, and I'm very grateful for the time that we had together.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. He gives you all the credit, actually. But Kevin's gone on. He's doing board work. He's doing advisory work. And, he went on to say, and this kind of speaks to the power of, I'm going to speak to some of your powers now, but the power of continuity, the power of consistency. And he said that he actually shared his answer to his question. And he said that were the glue, and you had that special ability to bring people together, bring the team together, to gel them. And especially when things get really tough, and when there's a lot of challenges. So, he said during those times, you don't change your approach or demeanor even a little bit. That's just such a huge compliment, because there's some hard days, there's some stressful days, the jobs are on the line, right? It's a big deal with that continuity. And by the way, I told him, I said, hey, I've heard Jeanine talk about you as an amazing mentor. And he said, if I was a mentor, it was unplanned. I think it happened organic the way it should. And he also wanted to say, misunderstood on leadership is followership. Sometimes people are just followed. That's for sure, Jeanine. How cool is that?
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So, Kevin, again, thank you with all that's going on for you. And, I want to pause and go back a little bit, Jeanine, to Hewlett Packard. You had these big jobs at EDS. You really learned business. You learned technology. You learned customer, people. You owned at one time at HP, you owned a $2 billion P&L. I just scratch my head every time I think of that. 3,500 people. You've worked across different industries. You were automotive, transportation, supply chain, manufacturing. Talk about those experiences and how that shaped you. And you are legit one of the most business savvy CIOs, chief digital officers I know. So just talk about that experience back on those days and the learnings from that.
Being in those roles, and I think the great thing about EDS, and then, we were acquired by HP, but when you were put into kind of a role of leading a piece of business and an engagement, with a client, you were really the general manager of that piece of business, right? Which in essence, I like to think about it as like, you were kind of like the CEO of your own business, right? I held a sales target. I led very large delivery teams. I held a financial target, and I owned the client relationship, right, for that specific client. So I got to see all aspects of it, which I think really kind of set an amazing foundation for me as I went on to join, Merchants Fleet, right now sitting on the other side of the table of where I'm not delivering services to a client through a contractual engagement, right? But now I'm wearing kind of a different hat. And I think what that helped me to do is I could completely relate to our chief commercial officer, right? In terms of what it meant to kind of pursue new business and help retain clients, because I understood what they were going through and I could speak their language. And I think it helped me across those various disciplines to forge great relationships, to be a really good communicator, and to collaborate, right? Like you sit in a seat where you see things uniquely that perhaps others don't because of kind of the sphere of influence and kind of where you sit. And so I think it really has helped me immensely having had that opportunity.
Yeah, I'd love to double click on something you just said around communication style. Not our brand in this profession, right? We're not known as a profession to be great communicators, but you are, and I think it comes under the banner of power of clarity. And so, especially in today's world where things are fast and messy and change, and we all know the VUCA acronym, right? Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. So in that environment, clarity wins the day today, right? And without that, you see so much inertia. You see people getting stuck. Confused minds don't act, right? We all know that expression. So maybe just unpack your style, your tips of the trade. Like, what makes you so great at communicating in this noisy world, Jeanine?
I go back, Dan, a lot of this is going to keep coming back to my EDS roots, right? Because I think we were trained to be really good in this area and had lots of opportunity, I think, to practice that in all of the trainings, right, that we were given. And I think it comes down to, right, when you're leading a client engagement, you have to be really good at this. You have to hone this skill, right? The power of clarity becomes very, very important. So I think I honed those skills very early on. And I think, with that comes the ability to, I think, be able to kind of step back and see things and connect dots to help bring clarity to clients and then take that back internally to kind of your respective organization to craft solutions, right, that at the end of the day are going to help our clients solve problems. So I learned it early on, and I think the more you do it, the more you kind of refine your approach. But I think what has served me well through all of that is just the ability to stay calm through it all, regardless of the situation, right? Staying calm because people are going to look to you and how you're reacting for how they're going to react or approach solving a problem or coming up with, a particular response.
That's so powerful. And I'm a student of the CIOisms, right? Those great expressions you all use when you're communicating, messaging, coaching, and whatnot. So, any great Jeanine-isms when it comes to your communication style philosophy?
Well, there's probably a couple of them that, if some folks from my team were on this podcast with us, Dan, that would come up, that they would say about me. I think one of them is I'm often quoted for saying, let me tell you what I want. And so typically when I start kind of a meeting with that kind of a statement, right, people know that it's time to be serious and that I'm going to be kind of direct and get to the point, right? It's not always like that, but there are times, right, depending on the situation where you have to really kind of get on with things and you have to be really clear about kind of what you want and why you want it. I'm a big believer of the why also, like tell me why this is important and tell me why you're asking me to get involved in this. And there are times when you want people's input, and then there are other times, just depending on what it is, where you have to be prescriptive, and that's okay. Not always, but people know when I say it that it's one of those times.
Right. Yeah. No, it goes back to clarity, and I'm sure they appreciate let's just get after it, right? You've got that chemistry, and we'll get into this later, but typically your folks are with you a good long while. You build great teams, great leaders. They stay together, they work together, finish each other's sentences. One of the things that I so admire about you, and I know your folks do too, is I call it the power of grit. You have some serious grit, and we're going to talk more about that in your article, your Szygenda.com article. But there's just times when it just comes down to the grind, right? Just gritting through it. And I'd just love to get maybe your thought process on, or how you approach those times and how you help your team, right? Hit that extra gear, get to the other side. Is there a playbook you follow? What's the Jeanine Grit playbook?
I love grit, actually. In fact, I have a t-shirt that I wear quite often when I'm working out, right? And it's grit. It says grit right on it. Big bold letters, right? It says grit. And I think actually that's pretty powerful, right? Because in the world of technology, things aren't always easy. You don't always have the answers, right? And sometimes it takes kind of that sheer kind of grit where you've just got to get into it and you've got to try things and you got to just keep going until you kind of figure it out. And the power is in kind of the collective team, right? And bringing the team together and letting them know that it's okay, that we haven't kind of figured it out. That's okay. But collectively, I'm a big believer of you can always figure it out, based on the collective kind of brain power of the team that you're engaged with.
That's good. And I think in today's world, that's just, there's messy days, right? And there's just hard times.
Yeah.
But we've been around the block enough to know that you just grit through it. And at some point you look back and like, wow, look what we've done. Look how far we've come.
Yeah. And I think too, Dan, a big part of it, at least for me, is it's okay. Like, just call it what it is. Just say it, acknowledge it, right? I think that helps people too, just knowing that, right? That
Right.
It's okay. It's a safe space and this isn't going to be easy, but we got this.
Yeah. I'd be curious. I have a lot of pet peeves, right? And so one of them is, I hate this term, okay? And I want to replace it with something. I've got an idea. So the fake it till you make it, okay? I just love to get your thoughts on that. And I've got an alternative to it, which is grit it till you get it. So tell me what you think.
I like it. I like you. I'm not a fan of fake it till you make it. I'm not a believer in that at all. So I like that. Maybe I get a new t-shirt that says grit it till you get it.
There we go. Well,
maybe we'll both get one, Dan.
Let's do that. Tracy, we're going to message to Tracy. We're going to figure this out. And, well, that's good. Got a special friend who's got a mystery question for you and has seen you grit it. Okay. And I'm going to just preface this by saying we might have to stop this podcast for a minute and just regroup, because it took her 5 times to record the question. I'm just saying. So check it out, and you're going to know in about 1.5 seconds who this is. So let's play the next question.
Let's go.
Jeanine, I've seen you through so many lenses as an executive and tier 1 partner in the automotive industry, a successful P&L leader and chief technology officer, an incredible mother, a devoted spouse, and a person of faith, and to me, a trusted friend and confidant. Your journey continues to inspire me, not just for what you've achieved, but for how you've led and lived with purpose, conviction, and great values. What has anchored you the most through the changes and reinventions of your career?
Ooh, that's Andy Karabutis.
Andy Karabutis. Let me just love on Andy and give you a minute, okay?
Please do. Thank you.
Andy Karabutis, most people know Andy, Hall of Fame CIO as of 2023, was there, celebrated her birthday that evening with a bunch of people, which was pretty special. But she's someone who's just defined greatness when it comes to leadership in our profession. She's now pivoted into chapter 2, what she calls rewirement. And so she's doing board work now. Like, we're talking Aon, big time board, Perigo out of Dublin, Civilis out of London, Autoliv out of Stockholm. She's on the Decacon advisory board now, which is this crazy successful AI and customer service tech organization. So she's just got a magic touch. And anyways, thank you, Andy. So are you good, Jeanine? You want to talk about Andy yourself and maybe talk about her question?
Yeah, I'd say a couple of things, right? First and foremost, I would say my faith. And it's not something that I, openly kind of talk about, right? But it is a big part of who I am. And it's a big part of what has helped me through, I think, a lot of challenges that I've experienced over my life. So it is something that is extremely important to me. I would say the strong foundation that I built at EDS, right? It's really what's anchored me. But at the end of the day, Dan, and I think, Andy and I have become very close. We have a lot in common, right? In terms of our backgrounds and, kind of how our careers, have progressed. She's gone on to do amazing things, right? But at the end of the day, I've had some personal challenges, and a lot of people don't know that about me, right? But through it all, I was determined that I was going to be a great role model for my children. And I think that's what's really kind of fueled me, right? To be a great parent, to have a successful career so that I could provide for my children, to take care of myself, to be a really good leader, and to have, really great focus and commitment on the companies that I work for and the clients that we serve.
Yeah, good stuff. Andy was telling me later, I don't know if she'll mind me saying this. She goes, yeah, I had to start playing sound of music in the background just so I can get through the question. And but
Yeah.
thank you.
We have a
Thank you.
special relationship, right? It started out as a professional relationship and has gone far beyond that now into a very, deep professional relationship. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business is personal and vice versa. So
yeah, thank you,
again,
Andy.
yeah. So I want to focus on something else I really admire about you, Jeanine. There's an old adage that says, if you want something done, ask a busy person. And, I think that kind of speaks to, people think it's about managing time. I've thought a lot about this when I was preparing your podcast. I think it's more about not maximizing time, but maximizing impact. I really think that's what it's about. And so, we all get the same 24 hours, right? And some people like you just have this ability to get more out of it, for their teams, their company, their community, their church, themselves. So maybe just any even glean that would help the rest of us mere mortals maximize our impact.
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about, I don't know that I have it completely figured out, right? But I think I have it figured out for me. And I think what works for me, right? And there's a couple of things, right? One kind of starts with taking care of yourself, right? Because if you're not taking care of yourself, then you can't help other people. And in the roles that we all have, we have to be the best version of ourselves so that we can have the most impact on the people we lead and the companies we serve. So I think that's really important. So for me, it's about, I usually start my day with the thing that's going to help set me up for the day. And that's a good workout. It helps me de-stress. It helps me get really good clarity. For those that know me, right, I have a big whiteboard in my gym typically. And this is where I get a lot of my great thoughts. And this is typically where I put what are my 5 high impact tasks that I got to focus on today? And then there's always a section on my whiteboard too that's about what are some of the more strategic things that I need to start planning for and thinking about. But I like starting my day that when I walk into the office, I know what the most important things are that I need to get done. Because there's always going to be a long to-do list. There's always going to be all the meetings you got to get through for the day. But if you don't have that good clarity on what are the most important things, then you're going to get to the end of the day and say, yeah, I was busy, but I didn't get these kind of really important things done.
So all those times we've had great breakfasts at Tucker's,
Mm.
had you already had your workout? Is that why you were just so firing on all
Oh,
cylinders
yeah,
at breakfast? Okay,
absolutely.
yeah, never
Absolutely.
heard.
And my team knows don't schedule really early mornings because if it's going to interfere with my workout schedule,
Yeah,
that's not going to sit well with me. Like it doesn't set me up to have a good day, to be the
yeah.
best version of myself.
Well, when you say really early, we're usually having breakfast at 7 a.m. So
Yeah, we are. I'm
you've
an
already
early
done.
riser.
You're like was it the Army, the Marines? Do more before lunch than anybody else their whole
Well,
day.
everybody has their best time, Dan, where they should focus, right? And everybody should know that about themselves. Like, where are you at your best in the daytime, right? And for me, it's usually before noon. That's when I get my best work done. And so I try to lean into that. If you want to have a really strategic conversation with me at like 5 or 6 at night, I mean, I'll engage, but I'm probably not going to show up with all my kind of best thinking.
When we visit, you always talk about your team. I know they're part of your force multiplier strategy, how you maximize impact, and talk about your merchants fleet team. I mean, they're industry leading. They're tech innovators. They're amazing, right? So, kind of love on them for a minute, and then one of the powers of having a long term team is you just get the mojo. You got the chemistry, you got the trust, but then how do you keep everyone sharp? How do you keep everyone hungry and right? So maybe just kind of unpack that for us.
Yeah, sure. I have an amazing leadership team here at Merchants, right? We've been together for almost 8 years, which I think is pretty unique in and of itself, right? And we couldn't be more different. Like it's a very unique set of personalities. We all bring kind of different things to the table, which we've come to, I think, very much respect and appreciate. Um, we've worked really hard to get to a point where, like, one, there's no politics. Like, it's not one of those teams, and I've seen those teams in actions, right, where it can be kind of political and people have their agendas. We don't have hidden agendas. We're all here to serve the client and to help our company grow and be successful through kind of the technology that we are able to bring to the table. We challenge each other all the time, right? But in a very respectful way. So people aren't afraid to kind of speak their mind, to challenge each other. But we had to work at that. It took some time to get to that point. So we've invested a lot, I think, in our relationships with each other, right? Both inside and outside of the office, because I'm a big believer of that too, right? You want to get to know the whole person. So I've worked hard to get them comfortable to do that. Like we've done some fun kind of, team building activities kind of outside of work. And they always laugh at me because I'm always about like, when we do team building, like let's do some fun, like physical activity. They are always worried that I'm going to make them climb a mountain or do something that they don't want to go do. But this is what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it works,
it
right?
works.
And oh my goodness. And you probably can't talk a lot about this, but your organization, your team has created some, I guess you call it fleet tech. I mean, you've really established some leadership positions there from a technology innovation perspective. I don't think you can talk much about that, but that's been a fun thing to watch you all do.
Yeah, it's been great, right? Because we do have a proprietary fleet platform, that we've developed that we go to market with, that we're constantly bringing kind of new capabilities, to bear in the marketplace to compete. And it's great, right? Because the work that we do really matters and it really does help the company, right? And I love that, right? I mean, I think we've got such good clarity, beyond the leadership team down to, all employees kind of within our technology function that they can understand and connect the dots and know like what they're doing and why that matters to our clients. And I think there's something really powerful in that. They always have to understand the why.
Well, we don't have time to talk about it today. Just the power of the results, the outcomes, right? The proof's in the pudding. I mean, the business, the growth, just unbelievable you've all done there at Merchants Fleet. And I'm very proud being a New Hampshire guy and then a Hampshire company. Wow, what a story.
Thank you, Dan.
What a story. So, we like to make sure we get people on that kind of prove out what you just shared, right? So we've got one of your colleagues who's got a mystery question, who's going to help us maybe unpack some of this from his perspective. So listen to this question.
What key skills and traits have allowed you to achieve sustained high performance and career longevity in the rapidly evolving field of tech?
Kurt Taylor.
Mr. Taylor, yes. Thank you, Kurt.
Yeah. And a little bit about Kurt too, right? I first met Kurt when we were working at HP. He, like me, started his career at EDS, but we didn't know each other kind of in those early days, right? But so the great thing about Kurt is our core values kind of are anchored at all of those things I talked about at EDS. So I met him when I was working in Chicago with United Airlines as a client, and he was working for me there. And so when I came to Merchants, I had asked Kurt to join me. And so the rest is kind of history. So we do have a bit of a long history here for sure. And he's just a great part of the leadership team here at Merchants. So, but back to the question, right? So I think the key skills and traits, like for me, key skills kind of go back to kind of those general manager kind of skills that I honed very early on in my career, right? So my ability to be able to, understand kind of the business from an end-to-end perspective and then figure out like how through technology solutions we can help the company go to market with either new capabilities, right? Or offerings, or how we can help kind of the company more from a operations point of view, like how can we help scale operations through kind of the use of technology. And I think all of those things that we learned how to do early on in our career at EDS have kind of positioned us very well to be able to do that here at Merchants. So I think that's helped. And I think, the other thing that I would say here, Dan, is just I'm a big believer in being kind of a lifelong learner. So you're never done, right? Like the field of tech is always changing. And as you know, like the rate at which it's changing now is like something we've never experienced in our career, right? And so you're constantly learning and you have to always, recognize that you're not always going to have the answers because it's always changing. So I think your ability to recognize that and surround yourself with the best people to help figure things out is kind of an approach that I think has served me well.
Yeah, I think that, we don't know what tomorrow's going to be, right? The things are moving so fast, but if you've got those general manager skill sets and that passion for learning, that curiosity, Jeanine, one of the things that kind of separates you from many executives, many leaders is the fact that you do a lot of mentoring, but your passion for mentoring, you're really good at it, right? And you lean in and so, just be curious, all the rising leaders you look back, you were recently awarded the Mentoring Excellence Award in our Tech LX Leadership Program, which was no surprise to me at all.
It's quite an honor.
Yeah, that was pretty special. But I guess maybe two-prong question. One is maybe secrets to being a great mentor. But I think people forget that there's a lot of learnings on the mentor side too. So maybe, what have you learned about leadership through your mentoring?
I've learned a great deal, right? I think I was very fortunate myself to have really great mentors very early on in my career, right? And the company invested in providing me even with formal mentorship. And that started early on, through an organization called Mentium. And I've gone on to serve as a mentor for them for over 25 years. So it started for me very early in my career. And, I will always be grateful for that. And I committed at that point, right? Like I want to be able to do this for other people, what was done for me. So it's a way of giving back to help people. I love helping people. There's something so gratifying about your ability through the power of a conversation of having an impact on somebody else, right? And we should never underestimate that impact. And it's very gratifying. I learned so much through this process as well. There's things that I learn about myself that, through the conversations that you're having that you don't really recognize at the time, that are like nuggets or lessons learned or things that can help other people. But you don't realize that sometimes until you're in these situations of mentoring other people. So very impactful, something I'm extremely passionate about and probably will do for as long as I can. I just love it.
Again, maximizing impact, right? It's just
That's it.
another great dimension of your story. And I've actually got somebody who is a disciple of, a beneficiary of the Jeanine Charlton School of Mentoring. So I'd love to have you listen into this question. And I know she just thinks the world of you. So check this out.
Hi, Jeanine. I hope you're doing exceptionally well. As I've shared before, I really valued our conversations. They offered me excellent insights with such great clarity. Your unwavering commitment to uplifting and helping others advance, be it corporate professionals or students, is so deeply inspiring. The way you consistently seek opportunities to foster growth and development in everyone is very, very admirable and impactful. My question to you is, what inspires and sustains your exceptional commitment to serving, mentoring, and coaching others, especially given the demands on your time and energy?
Jetna. Yeah. Yes. Oh, very wonderful to hear from her.
Yeah, so she was just a star participant in the TechLX program where she nominated you for the Mentoring Excellence Award. So yeah, maybe talk about that. Really, I know there's mentor-mentee relationship privileges, but maybe about her journey. But then have some fun with her question because there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for the very thoughtful question. The relationship that we developed, Dan, was really quite special. And I could tell very early on in our interaction that she was somebody that was just so eager to be mentored, right? Like she would come to the sessions extremely prepared, very thoughtful questions, any kind of recommendations or solutions, that we would come up with, she would put into practice and give feedback. So, there are times when you mentor people and, you hope that you're having an impact, but you don't really know sometimes. And then there are others where you know immediately, right, that you are having an impact. And she was one of those people. And it was just such a joy to be able to engage and to work with her. It was a really special opportunity.
Yeah, neat. Well, have some fun with her question, Jeanine.
Yeah, I think, the part about, why do I do this given kind of the demands on my time and my energy? And I think it goes back to a little bit about what I've shared already about how I was the beneficiary of some really great mentors over my career and what that meant to me. And I think I can't tell you, Dan, how many times, right, you might be having a very bad or a stressful day, and then you get into kind of a session like this where you're mentoring somebody and it completely flips it, right? Because you know that you're having an impact, right? And it's an opportunity to kind of give back and to make a difference. And that means so much to me. So, yeah, it's really important for me. It gives me a lot of inspiration.
Yeah. Well, she wanted to say when she nominated you for the award, she said, we ask CIOs to be mentors in this program. It's something we do around the world. We do a lot of this, and we ask for 3, 1-hour mentor-mentee sessions during this 9-month program. And she said throughout the TechLX program, Jeanine and I met 6 times. Despite her demanding schedule, she never canceled a meeting and always ensured our sessions took place, sometimes even when she was on vacation. So thank you again for that. In each interaction, she was exceptionally articulate, posed thought-provoking questions, and shared actionable insights. So just so much gold there, Jeanine. So again, from our whole team, Jill and Kath and the whole team, really appreciate you. And for those who want to join Jeanine and be part of that mentoring program, reach out to me. We'll get you plugged in.
Yeah. And happy to continue on with it, Dan. It was my pleasure. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Well, this would be a good time for us, Jeanine. One of the other special parts of this podcast is the Tech for Good program, the scholarship, right? And we're nearing a $500,000 of commitments that we've made through this, which is really
That's
just
really
mind-blowing.
impressive.
Over 36 STEM nonprofits have benefited from this. And so I'm just curious, you're involved with a lot of great groups, but is there someone that comes to mind that would be a great recipient of this?
You know, for me, Dan, this particular organization kind of goes back to my original roots in technology, right? It's the Michigan Council for Women in Technology, MCWT. My roots are in Michigan, right? It's where my career was started, and it's an organization that I was actively involved in when I lived there. And I love their mission, right? Because their mission is to help women consider, advance, or even stay in technology, right? If they're contemplating kind of an alternative career path, right? And they've been expanding their reach, right, to try to impact women really from grade school up to kind of post-university, and beyond. So just a great organization. And I would love to be able to have this scholarship go to that organization.
I love that. The MCWT is so good. And you won't be surprised, Jeanine, but they've been the recipient of the scholarship many, many times because people know how good they are. And
Yeah.
they're impacting individuals. They're impacting the state of Michigan. I mean, they're having a significant impact there in the tech community. And so, no, thank you for that. I love that. Warms my heart. And
Yeah.
I know
Thank you.
they're going to put this to really good use, as they always do. Some of our very best participants in TechLX have come from MCWT companies. So thank you for that. Well, I saved one more mystery question. I thought it'd be fun to do at the end here. Just kind of put a big bow on this, and again, it's just you've had this profound effect on so many people. So listen in and see if you recognize this voice, Jeanine.
Hi, Mom. So my question for you is, as a woman who's built a successful career in tech, what has your experience been like navigating an industry that's not always been inclusive of women? And how has that changed or shaped the way that you lead or make decisions today? And then going off of that, what is the biggest piece of advice you would give any woman entering the tech field to feel empowered and like they belong here?
My
You
daughter.
can see why I might have kept this at the end.
Yeah, she's the best kept secret. I got to tell you that, Dan.
Samantha Charlton, I have never met her. I feel like I know her because we get together, we talk about our amazing kids, and she's doing some awesome. Just brag on her and Michael for a minute.
Yeah. So son and a daughter, Michael and Samantha. My daughter Samantha is an entrepreneur. She owns her own gym. She's a personal trainer. She's, a health coach, and has recently made the decision to go back to school to be a nurse practitioner. So, why not run a full-time business and go back to school full-time?
Incredible. Yeah, we always talk about getting our daughters together because they're both very like-minded and in similar fields. So
Yeah. And then my son, Michael, electrical engineer. He's working for a company in Greenville, South Carolina, and has just recently relocated to start this amazing opportunity. So very proud of both of my children.
as you should be. You've all been through a lot together, and it's just great to see you thriving. And yeah, so great question from Samantha. Thank you for that. And yeah, just unpack that for us.
Yeah, sure. So, being a female in tech, and certainly when I started my career, right, there wasn't a lot of women in the technology arena, right? And it was a female in tech working in the automotive industry. So those three combined, right, is a bit of a unique kind of situation. So not easy, not a lot of women in this particular arena. And so, I think for me, I was very fortunate in working for EDS where, one, I was given this opportunity. Two, I worked for people that had a lot of faith and confidence in my ability and helped to kind of allow me to develop my skills. Goes back to really good coaching and mentoring and training. But I had to work really hard, right? It didn't come easy. So one, you were given the opportunity, but two, right, you had to work really hard because these were tough environments. These were fast-paced environments. And I was kind of learning as I went. So I always felt that I had to work really, really hard, to advance. But I always said yes. I always said yes. And I look back, and at the time I didn't realize it, but I felt that if I didn't, then I would be overlooked for the next opportunity, right? So I think that's one thing as I kind of reflect back that I think has really helped me. And it is some advice to the second part of the question, that I would give women entering the tech field is, one, you do belong in the room, right? You should believe and have confidence that you have a lot of great ideas and can contribute in a very meaningful way, and that you do belong to be a part of it. So I think it's having the confidence, knowing that you can do it, I think is a big part of it. And saying yes, like don't be afraid to say yes. And I would also say, don't be afraid to find your voice because chances are, right, the question that you have is a question that everybody in the room potentially has or hasn't thought of.
Really good. Well, thank you again, Samantha. And Jeanine, thank you for your patience with me. We've been talking about doing this for a while, I think a couple of years now. And I just felt like the time was just right. And this was special because you're so special. You're special to me. You're special to so many people. And you just hear that in the questions, right? And just how much people, you've lifted so many of us. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for sharing your genuine, transparent self. And we're going to spend some more time together now, right? We're going to go offline and we're going to work on an article for next week for SEO.com. And, I'm going to go where you want to go, but I really want to double click and I want to go deeper on, in these times, the power of resilience. And nobody can tell that story and the nuggets behind it like you can. So if you're game, that's where I'd like to go with the article.
I am game, Dan, and I just want to say thank you, one, for being persistent in, us getting together to do this podcast, but thank you for your friendship and for all your support. Right? You do amazing work in propping up CIOs across the country, and I appreciate everything that you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And just for the record, I do nothing to prop up. I just tell their great stories and they do all the work. But I mean, you just heard leadership master's class here, from Jeanine's days at EDS, which you referred to many times, to running a $2 billion P&L, to leading 3,500 people. And today, this amazing fleet tech company called Merchants Fleet. So I think your story, Jeanine, just reminds us the true power of leadership. It's not what we achieve only, it's how we lift others as we're doing it. So what a story there. And, we've heard from many leaders, I think a half dozen of your mystery question friends, mentors, peers, mentees, people who describe you as clear, consistent, compassionate, courageous. And I think, Jeanine, that's going to be your legacy right there. So thank you so much. I appreciate you, care about you deeply. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.